Good evening and welcome to my study. My name is Ron. I'm your host, and it's my pleasure to share a daily devotional to help keep us strong in the Word, strong in our faith, strong in our resolution, being children of God. Today was a little bit of a cooler Sunday. Didn't do too much today, nice and relaxing. Had a nice Chinese supper with some family. A nice little visit. Now it's time for a bit of a devotional. So, get yourself into a relaxed position. Put your feet up. And let's see what Daniel has for us tonight. Chapter 3, we're in. Okay, let's see. The devotional starts at 13. We'll back it up just a little bit here. But there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up. Well, here's Nebuchadnezzar's response. Then Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage and ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. When they were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I have set up?" And he gives them one more chance to bend the knee. But if they don't take this opportunity, here's what happens. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." That is resolute. Because it appears that God might not rescue them from that burning furnace. Because they say that, even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, we will never serve your gods. It's pretty serious. Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with these boys that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So they tied them up and threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. Now, that should be the end of the story. But suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisers, "Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace?" "Yes, your majesty, we certainly did," they replied. "What?" Nebuchadnezzar shouted. "I see 4 men, unbound, walking around in the fire, unharmed. And the fourth looks like a god." That's interesting. I don't know what a god looks like, but Nebuchadnezzar apparently does. Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisers crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them, nor a hair on their heads were singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make this decree: if any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of these boys, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be burned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who can rescue like this." Wow, that seems unbelievable. There's many stories in the Bible that seem unbelievable. But these accounts we're reading about, they're written by eyewitnesses. Kind of hard to refute that. This is a history book we're reading, and it's eyewitness accounts. So believe it or don't believe it. You decide. But there is something to meditate on. We are going to need faith and strength like Meshach, Abednego. Yeah, the three, the 3 Jewish boys. We're going to seriously need strength of faith as they had, because the times we're living in, persecution of Christians is just going to get worse. Take my word for that. Get prepared. Keep the armor shiny. You all have a good night. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow. And the easy verse for this week is John 3:16. Good night.